Let me stop you right there, because what I'm about to share could be the single most important thing you hear all year. Imagine that somewhere inside your body, right now, cells are making tiny genetic mistakes. That's not a disease, that's just biology. But here's the alarming part. After the age of 60, the three internal systems your body uses to catch and correct those mistakes start losing their edge. DNA repair slows down. Your immune system's cancer-fighting cells become less aggressive, and the natural self-destruction process that eliminates dangerous cells starts failing to fire on time. The result? Your body's built-in cancer defense net develops holes. Now, here's the good news, and this is what most people completely miss. There is one daily habit, backed by decades of large-scale research across millions of people, that simultaneously strengthens all three of those failing systems. It doesn't cost $1. You don't need a prescription. And you can start today. But most people who think they already know what it is are doing it completely wrong. And that mistake is actually canceling out most of the benefit. I'm going to break down exactly what the science says, how it works inside your cells, how much you need, and the one error you must avoid. If you want more content like this, the kind that actually digs into the research and gives you real, actionable answers, go ahead and hit subscribe right now and ring that bell so you never miss a video. Drop your thoughts, questions, and topic suggestions in the comments below. I read every single one, and your idea could become our next video. For over 2 decades, I've worked on the front lines of cancer medicine, from early-stage prevention conversations all the way to delivering diagnoses. I wish with everything in me that I never had to deliver. In that time, I've sat across from thousands of patients and asked myself the same question, over and over. What could have been done differently? After 20 years, I have an answer. Not a perfect one. Cancer is far too complex for that. But there is one daily behavior whose connection to cancer risk has been validated so many times, across so many different cancer types, that every single adult over 60 deserves to truly understand it. Not the surface-level version, the real version, the cellular version. Let me build that foundation right now, because without it, what I'm about to tell you sounds like ordinary advice. With it, it becomes urgent. Every day, your body's cells divide and copy their DNA, billions of times across your lifetime. And each time that happens, tiny errors slip through. This is completely normal. What isn't normal, what becomes dangerous, is when the systems designed to catch those errors stop doing their job. Your body has 3 primary defenses against cancer at the cellular level. First, DNA repair enzymes. These molecular tools scan your genetic code and fix errors before they can become permanent mutations. Second, natural killer cells, a specialized class of immune cells that patrol your body around the clock, looking for cells that display the early warning signals of abnormal or precancerous transformation. When they find one, they destroy it. Third, a biological process called apoptosis, essentially programmed self-destruction. When a cell accumulates enough damage that it becomes a threat, it's supposed to trigger its own shutdown sequence. Together, these 3 systems form a built-in cancer defense network. They are extraordinary. They work constantly and silently. And after the age of 60, all 3 begin to decline. DNA repair becomes slower and less accurate. Natural killer cell counts drop, and the cells that remain become less aggressive. Apoptosis becomes sluggish. Damaged cells that should self-destruct don't always get the signal in time. None of this is disease, it's aging. But it means the margin for error shrinks significantly. The same cellular mistakes your body handled effortlessly at 40 are far more likely to slip through the cracks at 65. That's why cancer rates climb so sharply with age. And that's why the habit I'm about to describe matters more in this decade of your life than at any previous point. The habit is movement. Consistent, moderate intensity physical activity. Before you click away thinking you already know this, stay with me. Because I said it deliberately. Most people misunderstand this, and that misunderstanding is costing them real protection. A landmark analysis published in a top cancer research journal reviewed data from more than 1.4 million adults and found that regular recreational physical activity was significantly linked to reduced risk across 13 different cancer types. 13. Not just colon cancer or breast cancer, we're talking kidney, bladder, esophageal, gastric, and more. The risk reduction ranged from roughly 10% to over 40%, depending on the cancer type and the level of activity. A 40% risk reduction for a life-threatening disease. That is not a minor finding. A separate large study published in a leading medical journal showed that adults who met standard activity guidelines, 150 minutes of moderate movement per week, had significantly lower cancer-related death rates compared to people who were sedentary. That breaks down to about 21 minutes a day. A 20-minute brisk walk. I want you to sit with that. A 20-minute walk, done consistently, is associated with a meaningful reduction in cancer mortality for people over 60. No expensive interventions, no prescriptions, just movement. Now let me show you exactly why this works at the biological level. When you engage in moderate physical activity, your body responds by ramping up the production and efficiency of the very enzymes responsible for repairing DNA damage. This includes two critical repair pathways, base excision repair and nucleotide excision repair, which fix genetic errors caused by normal cell division, environmental exposure, and oxidative stress. Research published in a cancer prevention journal demonstrated that physically active individuals showed significantly greater DNA repair capacity than sedentary individuals of the same age. The effect was strongest in older adults, the group most at risk from declining repair function. Physical activity doesn't just slow the loss of DNA repairability. In many cases, it partially restores what aging has diminished. Part of this happens through a protein called PARP, which responds rapidly to DNA strand breaks and whose activity increases with regular movement. At the same time, exercise reduces oxidative stress, one of the primary causes of DNA damage, by strengthening the body's own antioxidant systems. Less damage being created, greater capacity to repair what does occur, both happening simultaneously. Natural killer cells are your immune system's most direct line of defense against cancer. Their entire function is to scan the body and eliminate cells that show the early markers of abnormal or precancerous behavior, before those cells can multiply. After 60, this system weakens. Fewer natural killer cells, less aggressive function, less vigilant surveillance. This is one of the core biological reasons cancer becomes more common with age. Physical activity is one of the most powerful known triggers for natural killer cell activation. Even a single session of moderate exercise causes these cells to be released from tissues into circulation, where they gain access to areas of abnormal cellular activity. One study found that a single 30-minute moderate workout can increase natural killer cell counts in the bloodstream by as much as 50% in the hours following that session. But the finding that matters most for long-term cancer prevention goes further. Consistent, repeated physical activity over time produces lasting improvements in what researchers call natural killer cell cytotoxicity, meaning the actual ability to identify and destroy abnormal cells. Older adults who stay physically active show significantly stronger natural killer cell performance than sedentary individuals of the same age. Not a temporary boost, a permanent upgrade. This third mechanism is arguably the most important and the least discussed outside specialized medical settings. Chronic low-grade inflammation is now recognized as a defining characteristic of the environment in which cancer grows and spreads. Cancer doesn't typically emerge in healthy, well-functioning tissue. It develops in tissue that is chronically inflamed, marked by sustained elevated levels of specific inflammatory proteins that collectively create conditions favorable for abnormal cell growth. Here's what most people don't realize. Sedentary behavior itself, not just the absence of exercise, but prolonged inactivity and sitting, directly drives systemic inflammation. A body that barely moves maintains persistently high levels of these inflammatory signals, creating exactly the kind of internal environment where cancer is more likely to take hold. Regular physical activity is the most thoroughly supported non-drug method for reducing chronic inflammation. Consistent moderate movement lowers circulating levels of multiple pro-inflammatory compounds, raises anti-inflammatory ones, and reduces visceral fat, the abdominal fat that actively produces inflammatory signals even when overall body weight doesn't shift much. Every day you move consistently, you are reshaping your body's internal chemistry. You are making it a less hospitable place for cancer to grow. The change is gradual, cumulative, and invisible, but so is cancer's development. The difference is that movement shifts those conditions in your favor. Now, let me tell you about the error almost everyone makes when they decide to take this seriously. They go too hard. When people commit to exercising for their health, they often launch into high-intensity routines, pushing to exhaustion, believing that more effort means more benefit. For cancer prevention specifically, this is the wrong approach. Not because intense exercise is dangerous, but because the immune benefits associated with cancer protection peak at moderate intensity and actually begin to decline when intensity becomes excessive. Research in exercise immunology shows a consistent pattern. Moderate activity strongly activates natural killer cells and anti-inflammatory pathways, while very high-intensity exercise, the kind where you cannot speak in full sentences, can temporarily suppress immune function in the hours that follow. This is called the open window effect, and it works directly against the sustained immune vigilance you're trying to build. The target zone for cancer prevention is moderate intensity, an effort level where you can hold a conversation but are slightly breathless. Brisk walking, relaxed cycling, swimming, dancing, sustained yard work, anything that raises your heart rate to roughly 50 to 70% of your maximum and holds it there for 20 to 30 minutes. And here is the principle that matters most. Consistency beats intensity every single time. 5 20-minute moderate sessions spread across a week deliver far greater immune and anti-inflammatory benefit than 2 intense workouts. It's not about pushing harder, it's about showing up more often. The frequency of activation matters far more than the peak effort of any individual session. Let me tell you about a patient I'll call Victor. He was 67, a retired accountant, precise and methodical, someone who tracked everything. He came to me after a routine colonoscopy revealed 3 precancerous polyps, not cancer yet, but cells already shifting in the wrong direction. Victor was rattled. His father had died from colorectal cancer. His brother had recently gone through prostate cancer treatment. He sat across from me and asked the question I've heard 1,000 times. What should I do now? I walked him through this. The evidence, the mechanisms, the plan. 25 minutes of brisk walking, 5 days a week, no exceptions. No dramatic diet overhaul, no supplements, no other targeted changes, just consistent movement. 6 months later, he returned for his follow-up colonoscopy. Only 1 polyp remained, down from 3, and that polyp had not progressed. His inflammatory markers had dropped from elevated levels into the normal range. His natural killer cell activity, which we measured at baseline and again at 6 months, had increased by 34%. Before he left, Victor said something I've repeated to many patients since. I spent 6 months walking. I felt better. I slept better. And it seems like my body finally started doing what it's supposed to do again. Why wasn't I told this 20 years ago? I didn't have a good answer then. This channel is my attempt to change that. Let's bring this together. The single most consistently validated, biologically understood, and practically accessible habit for reducing cancer risk after 60 is consistent, moderate physical activity. Specifically, 20 to 30 minutes of moderate movement, brisk walking, cycling, or swimming, at a conversational pace, 5 or more days per week. It works through 3 proven pathways: enhancing DNA repair capacity, activating and strengthening natural killer cells, and reducing chronic systemic inflammation, the internal environment in which cancer develops. The mistake to avoid is either doing nothing because the effort seems too small to matter, or going too hard and repeatedly blunting the immune response you're working to build. So here's what I want you to do. Not next week, not when conditions are perfect, but today. Find one 20-minute window in your schedule and claim it for movement. Walk your neighborhood, take a relaxed ride, do 15 minutes of activity and 5 minutes of stretching. Pick something simple enough to repeat tomorrow and the day after. The first day takes effort. The second is easier. By the end of the first week, the habit begins to take shape. By the end of the first month, your natural killer cell activity is already measurably higher than where you started. That's not motivation. That's biology in motion. If this changed the way you think about cancer prevention, tell me how in the comments. I read every single response. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, a parent, a partner, a close friend facing a diagnosis and looking for every credible option available, share this video with them. That one action could matter more than you realize. Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. In the next video, I'm going to break down 5 specific foods that growing research is connecting to increased cancer risk in adults over 60, and at least 2 of them are foods most people assume are perfectly healthy. Take care of your body. Start moving today. And remember this: the most powerful tool you have against cancer isn't sitting in a pharmacy. It already exists inside you. It's just waiting to be activated.